You know, it's so hard these days with all the confusing labels and packaging. How do you buy chicken? How do you buy meat? What do you look for? Well, today I'm going to tell you what to look for when you're buying chicken and how not to be confused by a label that sounds too good to be true. First of all, let's dispense with what I hope everyone knows are the worst ways to get chicken. Processed chicken, like nuggets, patties, etc. If you're picking up any chicken that's been processed into something, then it actually has the most microplastics of just about anything that you could eat ever. Interesting fact, the biggest mischief maker are chicken nuggets. And here's the bad news. Plant replacements for chicken or beef also have microplastics in them. So it's the processing that's a huge problem here. Now, before I continue, just remember that plastics and microplastics are not your friend for multiple reasons. And we'll talk about plastics that are in contact with chicken in a second. But recent evidence shows that the ingestion of plastics, microplastics, even microplastics from bottled water, completely changes the gut microbiome in a really bad way. And you'll learn more in the coming months about how bad that is for you. All right, all natural. What the heck does all natural mean? As I like to assure my patients, arsenic is all natural. It has nothing to do with anything, and yet you will see that package after package after package. Okay, how about not treated with antibiotics? It turns out that the federal government banned the use of antibiotics in chicken. However, antibiotics were banned, but there's a loophole. Antibiotics are given to chickens for two reasons. Number one, it's perfectly legal to keep 100,000 chickens in a warehouse, crammed up against each other, as long as you allow them the potential to go outside for 5 minutes every 24 hours to a 3-yard by 3-yard patch of dirt. That is actually the definition of free range. First of all, any smart chicken would not stick his head out of the warehouse because a hawk might eat him or a coyote. So they're not going to go out. And number two, do you really think 100,000 chickens can get through that door in 5 minutes to go outside? No, but that's the law. Number two, even though it is illegal, supposedly, to give chickens antibiotics, the loophole says that if a veterinarian who happens to be employed by the big chicken company believes in his heart of heart or her heart of hearts that one chicken in those 100,000 chickens is sick, they're allowed to treat the entire 100,000 chickens with antibiotics. This happens more often than you might think. In fact, numerous testing of antibiotic-free, all-natural chicken, 60% of them test positive for antibiotics. Oops. Buyer beware. Additionally, one of the biggest sources of urinary tract infections in women is actually from E. coli, a specific E. coli that appears in chicken breasts. So a lot of times you look and see, oh, here's free range. Remember, it's not really free range. Here's air chilled. So because of E. coli, most chickens are treated with chlorine bleach to try and kill off the E. coli in these chickens. And it's really very high. So you might assume that bleached chicken is safer, but you're wrong. I mean, you're actually eating bleach. So just because it says bleach doesn't mean a thing. Do you ever wonder why, other than economics, they keep 100,000 chickens in a warehouse, literally crammed up against each other? Because chickens, because of the corn and soybeans they eat, develop severe osteoporosis in their legs. And they grow so fast and they become so top heavy that their legs actually break and become so wobbly that they literally hold each other up. So that's why they're crammed in there. All right, well, how about organic? Now, the federal government says that the definition of organic means that you fed them organic corn and soybeans or other grains that are organic. And you can call them organic free-range chickens, even though you never let them outside. Here's the catch. The federal government says that if the price of organic feed becomes twice as high as non-organic feed, you can legally switch to non-organic chicken feed and still keep the organic label because you meant well. How about air chilled? This one says air chilled. Well, the process of pulling off the feathers was done by freezing the chicken. It's one way of removing the feathers. Now, famous chefs that I know say it's a much better chicken, but it really has nothing to do with the chicken itself. It's just how the feathers were removed. But it sure sounds good that it's air chilled. All right, how about no added hormones? Now, yes, hormones are banned from chickens and cows for that matter, but it's really easy to manipulate the chicken hormone levels by changing its food. So when you see something like no added hormones, it's exactly like saying no added sugar in grape juice or cranberry juice. What that label literally says is, there's so much sugar in here, we didn't have to add any more. All right, now we're beginning to see pasture-raised chicken, but there's still a catch. You would assume that pasture-raised means that the chicken went out and ate bugs and grass out in the field, and that's what they were supposed to do. But almost all pasture-raised chickens are supplemented with food from the farmer to get them to grow, particularly during the winter when grass isn't growing all year round. The problem is that most farmers use cheap stuff like grains to feed them. So just because it's pasture-raised doesn't give you any idea if it's actually supplemented with additional food. Now, this is where Farmer Dan at Lectin Light Chicken and Primal Pastures from Temecula, California, come in. They won't use soy or corn ever. In fact, Farmer Dan from Lectin Light Chicken refuses to use any lectin in his chicken feed. And that's why it's called Lectin Light Chicken. I have no relationship with Farmer Dan, except I'm incredibly impressed with what he does. I have no relationship with primalpastures.com, except I'm very impressed with what they do. So look for these things. Now, you're in a regular grocery store. Look for the word heirloom or pasture-raised. It's the best you can do in a regular grocery store. Is it perfect? No, but it's a whole lot better about what you're buying with the all-natural chicken. Now, I mentioned earlier plastics. The plastic wrap on your chicken will actually put an endocrine disruptor called phthalates into your chicken meat. So regardless of what chicken you're buying, first of all, try to buy it from a butcher shop where they'll wrap it in butcher paper. Or, worst case scenario, take it home, wrap it in white wax paper or butcher paper, or put it in a glass container, and then get rid of the plastic. It's a major issue that I've talked about before. In fact, pregnant women who eat a lot of chicken, which has been wrapped in plastic, give birth to boys who have smaller penises than women who don't do that. You decide. I report. Finally, the worst thing to do when you're looking for chicken is believe these signs like all natural, no antibiotics, organic. They're fed organic corn and soybeans. And I can't tell you the number of patients that I have with a difficult to control autoimmune disease, that it's their organic free-range chicken that was one of the final culprits. And when we eliminated that, their autoimmune disease resolved. More amazing episodes just like this one. Watch now. Don't be fooled by the label. While cage-free might sound promising, it's only marginally better. These chickens typically only also get 1 square foot per bird.